Howdy everybody, I am Kolik and this is Summoner's War. Now today I'm talking about the Rune Optimizer again, part 2. And we've already talked a little bit about how to set up the whole Rune Optimizer, so everyone should have it up and running hopefully, and got their data. Alright, so one thing I want to mention is if when you're connected to the proxy server, you may notice a bit of a few odd behaviors. Mainly things like sometimes you won't be able to turn in events. Sometimes the little ads that come up when you load the game, they won't load. You'll just get a blank screen. Okay, so it's probably best not to stay connected, for days at a time. And there's really no need to, because you just need to do it, get your data, maybe make some adjustments based on that and leveling up runes, and then reload the data again. Now the data reload automatically once you restart Summoner's War, so it's pretty simple and straightforward. Then you just go back to this first little thing and you re-import it. Since the file is going to stay the same file name, you don't even have to pick it again. Alright, so now let's talk about preparation. You can't just walk into this thing and expect to have it magically spit out every single rune that you could possibly want on every build and do all the work for you. That's not the way it works. Okay? It's going to present you with a lot of options. Do you understand and process all these options? You need to have some preparation done. The first thing that you need to do is power up your runes. Now you want to power up the blues to +6 at least, and the purples to +9, and the oranges to +12. Now the main reason you want to do this is so that you can tune your crit rates and speeds so that they will hit the appropriate thresholds that you need for your monsters. In addition, possibly accuracy. Maybe there's a certain hit point threshold you want, or attack percent threshold that you want. These thresholds are what you're trying to hit. Speed and crit rate are the most important of these thresholds, but not the only thresholds that you can choose. So, having said that, you want to power up most blues to 6, purples to 9, and oranges to 12. But there are exceptions to this, that you want to possibly power up all the way to 12 regardless. And the main reason is because you want to be able to go and get all these runes powered up so that you can see what crit rate and possibly speed that they could roll for you. Okay, so the question is like, what do you need to power them up to? Well, what you need to power them up to is basically to +12. All right, now if it's a rune that you're possibly going to want to use, then fine, go ahead, power up to 15 if you want. I don't usually power up runes to 15 unless they're already on a top tier monster that I'm going to put on my most important team. To me, that team is Guild War Defense, but to you it may be something different. Okay, powering up to +15 is a lot more of a cost than powering up to +12, so you don't want to do this willy-nilly. You need to be able to figure out which runes are necessary to power up higher, and then power up them and not the others. Okay? So, what do you want to power up to +12? Well, in particular, you want combinations of things that are missing one of those two things, crit rate or speed, but would be good enough that you're going to be using this, not maybe on this monster, but on a different one, or third tier, second tier, that kind of stuff. So you want things that are attack, speed, crit rate, HP, speed, crit rate, or defense, speed, crit rate. So basically speed, crit rate, and either attack, HP, or defense as a third sub. Okay, those are the ones that you're working to do because you want to find out what their crit rate will be. Because if they roll crit rate, that makes it a pretty good rune. It has all 3 of attack type subs that you want on an attack or HP or defense based monster. So this is kind of important. Alternatively, it could be crit rate and crit damage subs with, again, attack, crit damage, or defense. And then you're like, well, I need to know if it's going to roll speed. Because it rolls speed, you might tune it to be a particular speed, but then when you plus 12 it, it becomes, this rune makes it faster than your armor breaker. And so all of a sudden your attacker goes before your armor breaker. And there, you don't kill him anymore. Well, before you fully powered up, you would have killed him. That's a big deal. So you want to do these special type of runes need to be powered up to plus 12, regardless if they start out as blues, purples, or oranges. Now, I'm not talking just about subs here. It can be the main stat. So if it's crit damage and it rolls crit rate, you should power up to plus 12 to see if you get speed on it. Okay, not to mention, you might get HP, defense, or attack percent, and then that might slant it towards particular monsters, because if it's a rage, obviously it's a generic set to start with, but if it's an energy rune and it rolls HP percent, well, that will be better than probably a broken set, depending on what your other rune is. So, after you've done those, you need to go ahead and use your speed grindstones. Okay? Your speed grindstones are going to basically determine whether you need to, you use which grindstones you want to use where. It gets complicated, okay? And we're going to be discussing that later in part 4. But you really need to think about is using the speed ones first. And because you want to use the speed ones first, it basically will determine the turn order again. It's all about the turn order. In fact, almost everything that you can do in here has really to do with one thing, and that's the turn order. If you can get the turn order correct on your monsters, and you tune it so that it is very close, so that they go one after the other like that, then alright, that is what you really end up hoping for to get to work with the Rune Optimizer. So, that's a lot of information right there, right? That is our preparation steps. Now, we have more. Okay? Personally, this is where I come in, and this is how I organize this. We still have a mess of data. We have a lot of monsters. We don't know where to start. And that's the real problem most people have. Where to start, how to do it, what order. My personal method is I take all the teams that I have. So it's going to be TOA, Giants, Dragons, Necro, Guild War offenses, all 5 of them possibly, Guild War defenses, both of them, Arena defense, Arena offense, raids, front lines, back lines, even Rift dungeons. Okay, so all these things I write down, all the monsters that I use for every single one of these events. Now, what you want to do is then say, what is the most important thing to you? Now, to me, that's Guild Wars, and in particular, Guild War defenses, because my team on Europe server, I have 2 accounts, the ones on Europe server are very important, that we win defenses, and my teams can do that. But to do that, I need to have my best runes on them. Now, it doesn't mean that I'm not going to use these monsters elsewhere. In fact, you should. And that's the whole goal, is that you want to take these monsters that you're using and use them elsewhere. Like, for instance, I have a Lucian speed clear team that I use for arena offense, but I also use the Lucians for giants. Okay? I also use them to clear magic, wind, fire, water, light, dark. Okay, so these have some really good runes, and so I want to take advantage of that fact, and so I use them in a lot of places. Okay, you made a list of teams. Now you gotta select what's the most important team to you. Maybe you can't do everything, and that's okay. Alright, your goal, if you can't do everything, should be focusing on grinding out more runes. The more runes you have, the better. Runes is a constant grind. Runes are more important than what Nat 5s you have. If you have a Nat 5 and bad runes, then you just have bad runes and you can't do anything about it. You have to have the runes. Now the nice thing about the runes is, it's just like the monsters, once you get it, you have it. And nothing can take it away from you. Now you might find one better, but if you have a good rune and you find a better one, you still have the old one. It's still useful in other places. So that is a very important point, and we have to farm. That's what this game's about. Okay? So the next thing we have to do, and it's the doozy one, is selecting your speed buffer. Now, these attack bar buffers are pretty important, and which one you go for can be a big deal. But for the most part, the one that you should probably pick, the most one that everyone's going to have access to, you can get it very easily, okay, is Bernard. Now, let me go through the other options, and I'll discuss what exactly the differences are, because most people don't understand the differences. Orion is a really great monster in certain places, okay? It is harder to speed tune monsters with Orion than it is to speed tune monsters with Bernard. And that's because Bernard gives attack speed buff, which makes all the other monsters faster, and it is a very significant difference, okay? And we'll be getting to that exactly on how that works in the next part. Kabila is an attack bar buffer that has base speed higher than Bernard, but has the same problem as Orion. It means that your monsters that you're supporting, that you're buffing up, need to be even faster, okay? And the high base speed means that they actually need to be a little bit faster than they would be to be tuned with Orion. Now, when I say tuned, I mean that your guys get the next turn. Okay, if you don't get the next turn, there's not much point in outspeeding them. The whole idea behind the Devolution team, which is a really awesome team once you can assemble it. Okay, it's a lot of fun. It makes arenas clears really easily. But the whole idea is that to guarantee that you get the next turns. And if you have the next turns, and the next turn, and the next turn, all your monsters move together, all four of them. And when all four of your monsters move together, the opposing team should die. Now, they have ways to defend against this, but it hurts, okay? It makes them vulnerable to other methods. The more methods they stack against these devolutions, things like Nemesis runes or fire type monsters, the more they open themselves up to other teams, water-based attackers, right? I mean, if they're all fire and you're all water, yeah, you have a massive advantage. Yeah, so there's other attack bar buffers. Frigate is an excellent one, but it's very hard to acquire. Okay, Purian is the Water Inferno. He is not so great because he has such a low base speed. It is very low, and it is very hard to overcome that unless the opponents aren't speed tuned. That's the way that you can get past a lot of these people, especially at lower levels. Even Conqueror 1s, they won't have their monsters speed tuned. If your monsters are speed tuned, you can beat people with better runes and better monsters. That's really what it comes down to. Speed tuning is one of the most important concepts in Summoner's War, and there's nothing in the entire game that actually talks about it. So that's going to be the end of part 2, and in part 3 we'll be talking about the next thing, which is how do I know what speeds I need to be speed tuned. This is Kolik, and I'll see you in the next one.